Maybe you think to yourself, or you ask yourself the question, Pastor, you said everyone who was a criminal who died on the cross. And what was so significant about Jesus' death on the cross? What was so different about Jesus that his death on a cross was different than all the other criminals who died on the cross? And I would say the first reason why the death of Christ on the cross is significant for you and me is up until the day that Jesus was crucified on that cross, every single person who hung on the cross was a criminal. They deserved the full penalty of death for what they had done. They had been tried and convicted and found guilty for what it was that then made them deserving of the death on the cross. But Jesus was the first person who was fully righteous, fully blameless, and fully without any guilt who hung on that cross that day. And that's why the death of Jesus is so significant, because every other person who hung on the cross deserved the full wrath of the cross. Even the criminal who hung beside Jesus looked at the other criminal and said, you and I, we deserve to be here on this cross, but not this man, because he understood that Jesus was fully righteous and yet he hung on the cross. Now, why was that? Why was it that Jesus, who was not deserving of such a gruesome punishment, would allow himself to die such a gruesome death? The Bible says, the wages of sin is death. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. All of man's righteousness in the eyes of God are but filthy rags. Meaning, there was no other way that you and I could ever be redeemed unless someone took our place. Someone who is spotless, someone who is blameless, because the wrath of God could not be poured upon an unrighteous person, because it could not contain what God wanted to be justified through that wrath. The only way the wrath of God could be justified is a blameless, sinless, someone who's spotless would take the place of those who had fully deserved death to take upon themselves the wrath of God. And that's exactly what Jesus Christ did. And that's why his death has such a significance for you and me. You know why? Because it was you and me who should have hung on that cross. It should have been you and me who should have received the full penalty of the wrath of God. You and me had found in the sight of God as unrighteous, as wanting. And yet Jesus Christ left his throne, came down to earth for one purpose, which is to substitute himself in our place. As the Bible says, the one who knew no sin became sin for us, so that we who are sinful can become righteous through what Jesus Christ did. So today, the death of Christ on the cross has meaning and significance for us because it makes you and me redeemed. It makes you and me righteous. It makes you and me free from the bondage of sin and from the bondage of guilt, because Jesus Christ took our place. You and I don't have to go through what he did.